Xero is an amazing bookkeeping program, and it is the only program that I use and recommend and have done so for 10 years. And what I see is that so many people have moved to Xero, which is amazing, but the problem is they're not using it to the capacity that it could be used. It is an amazing tool that is so useful for your business. But I wanted to run through a couple of the problems I find with clients time and time again who come to us when they're working with us with Profit First, or whether they're working with us for their bookkeeping. So as I said, the number one thing I see is that it's not being used efficiently. So when I talk about efficiencies in business, we want to make sure that you are using all the functionality that is useful for your business. So the first one I see is people still doing data entry. So still entering receipts or information from receipts into Xero, which is unnecessary. We use and recommend HubDoc as your receipt management system. So what that means is that you can have your fuel receipt, for example, and you just take a photo. It scans the image, uploads it into HubDoc, where there are some efficiencies in there that we can set up to make sure that that information gets sent straight over to Xero, and it just sits there and waits. So for example, if you spent $50 today at Caltex, tomorrow when you go in to do your reconciliation and you've used HubDoc, all you need to do is hit OK, because that bill has already been created. All the data has been transferred in that you need, and a copy of that receipt has been attached to that bill. So there's no data entering the bill, or there's no on your reconciliation page putting in information on that side. So you're just hitting OK. So that's one of the big things that I see. The other thing that I see is that simple things like bank rules aren't set up where they could be used for your transfers, or they could be used for bank fees or bits and pieces like that. So it's really important to set up bank rules for when they're useful. So I also see a lot of people that set up bank rules for Bunnings and Caltex and all of those things, which again, for us in my bookkeeping business, that's not best practice. Best practice is to make sure you have a copy of your receipt in Xero via HubDoc, to make sure that when you have an ATO audit, that all the information is in there. So if you have bank rules set up for anything other than pretty much your bank account fees, and your transfers, it's time to have a look in there and make sure that your file is actually set up for best practice and the way the ATO is going to want to see all the information. Another issue that I see is that people don't do their reconciliations. They don't make sure that at the end of every month that everything matches to the bank statement. And that if you have hired a bookkeeper or you have an internal bookkeeper, then they will absolutely be doing this. If they're not, you need a new one, but they all should be. But for those who are doing the bookkeeping themselves, Xero is an amazingly easy system to use, but there are a number of steps and processes in place that you need to check to make sure when it gets to BAS time and when it gets to end of financial year time, that all the information in there is correct and up to date, because you don't want to pay more tax than you should be, or you don't want to pay less tax than you should be, and then you get an audit and then you get a surprise tax bill. So it's really important to make sure that you are 100% confident with Xero and that everything that you are doing. I highly recommend that if you are doing your bookkeeping yourself, that you at least have a BAS agent or your tax accountant do a full review of your BAS and submit it on your behalf, so they can do all their checks to make sure that every quarter everything is how it should be, so that again you don't get to the end of the financial year or when you're doing your tax returns and then get surprise GST bills because things haven't been done correctly. Now, if you are one of those people who is doing your bookkeeping yourself, or you have decided that you are going to start your business and do your bookkeeping yourself, that is great. I've got some free checklists which you can use. If you are somebody who has been doing your bookkeeping yourself and is ready to hand it over to a specialist who can do it much more efficiently than you, then feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to have a chat with you and see how we can help make sure that your Xero is not only efficient and effective, but also making sure that those numbers that we are going to use in your business that are so important, particularly when you're doing Profit First, are correct, because if that foundational bookkeeping step is not correct, then everything else, it's going to have a flow-on effect to everything else you do in your business. Getting your Xero set up correctly, having a full Xero review of your file to make sure that every little part of that is set up correctly is vital in making sure every single other thing you do in your business is simple and easy.